I never thought I would be sharing such a painful story. My name is Mama David, and I am here to share a very personal experience. My husband and I have always worked hard to provide the best life for our son, David. David was our joy, always laughing and playing. We hired a housemaid to look after him while we were at work. We thought she was someone we could trust. One day, I began to notice small changes in David. He was no longer the happy, playful boy we knew. He became very quiet and withdrawn. He seemed afraid. He would tremble at sudden movements, and he started having nightmares. At first, I brushed it off, thinking it was just a minor issue. How wrong I was. I shared my worries with my husband, but we were both so busy with work. Our jobs demanded more and more of our time. Late nights at the office, business trips, endless meetings. We told ourselves that David was in good hands, but the signs were there, and they were growing clearer every day. But mother's intuition is strong. One day, I decided to come home early just to check on things. As I approached David's room, I heard unusual sounds. My heart raced. I opened the door and saw our housemaid. She was doing something very wrong with David. David's eyes met mine, filled with tears and fear. I felt a wave of anger and sorrow that I can't describe. I confronted the housemaid, demanding answers. She denied everything. Her lies were too much. I sent her away from my house immediately and turned my attention to David. When I asked him what had happened, he broke down in tears. It didn't happen all at once. The whole process took about 6 months, with her making him do one little thing after another. Each small act gave her more control over him. He should never have been exposed to such things at his age. But he kept going back, which gave her even more power over him. He felt he couldn't tell anyone because he feared we would get very angry and punish him for everything that happened. My heart shattered. How could I and my husband have been so blind? So focused on our own lives that we missed the signs that our child was being abused. In that moment, it all started to make sense to me. David's sudden fear of the dark, his reluctance to be alone with her, and his frequent nightmares. Each piece of the puzzle fell into place, and with it, my guilt grew. I remembered a conversation I had with my husband about 4 months ago. We were joking, and David was just standing there, staring at us with red eyes. I asked him what was wrong, but he didn't say anything. I sensed something was heavy on him, but he wouldn't talk to me. Maybe he wanted to talk about what he was going through, but didn't know how to tell me. I didn't see the signs because I thought only girls could be abused, not boys. When I was growing up, we always talked about protecting our daughters, teaching them how to be safe, notice danger, and speak out. It never occurred to me that boys could also suffer, be targeted, and hurt like girls. I remember how all of a sudden, he started acting out in crazy ways at home. How he was always very angry and very rebellious. At the time, my husband and I thought he was just being stubborn, and we punished him for it. We didn't know that his behavior was his way of crying out for help. We mistook it for stubbornness. There were other problems too, like academic and social issues. The signs were there, but how could we have known? David's grades at school began to slip too. He had always been a bright student, but suddenly his test scores were low, and he struggled to complete his homework. His teachers were concerned. Mrs. Cynthia, his teacher, noticed the changes in his behavior. She observed that David seemed distracted, his grades were dropping, and he wasn't participating in class. She also noticed that he looked tired all the time. My husband and I were worried. We had noticed changes at home too, but we didn't realize it was affecting his schoolwork this badly. When we spoke with Mrs. Cynthia, she explained that children often show their anxiety in different ways. She emphasized the importance of understanding what was going on with him. David's social life suffered too. He used to have many friends, but started to isolate himself. He stopped playing football with his friends and preferred to stay alone in his room. I once overheard him refusing an invitation to a birthday party. "I don't feel like coming," he told his friend. Seeing him so withdrawn was painful. One weekend, David's friend Kofi came to visit. "Hi, David," Kofi said cheerfully. "Do you want to play football?" David hesitated, but finally agreed. They kicked the ball around, laughing and shouting. For a moment, it felt like things were back to normal. After the game, Kofi pulled me aside. "Auntie, is David okay? He seems different." I sighed, unsure of how much to share. He's going through a tough time, Kofi, but having friends like you helps a lot. Kofi nodded solemnly. I'll be there for him, Auntie. He's my best friend. We tried to comfort David and assure him that he was safe now, but the damage was done. He was a shadow of the boy he once was. Night after night, he woke up screaming, haunted by the trauma from the abuse. My husband and I were consumed by guilt and regret. We had failed our son in the most fundamental way. We sought help, visiting doctors, therapists, and anyone who could help us mend our broken boy. Each day felt like a battle, each night a reminder of our failure. The pain in David's eyes was a constant reminder of our flaws as parents. We decided to establish a new habit to help David feel more secure. Every evening we had family time. Sometimes we played games, other times we read books together. One night, we watched a funny movie, and for the first time in months, David laughed out loud. It was music to my ears. We also encouraged David to return to his hobbies. He loved drawing and playing the piano. We enrolled him in an art class, and his art teacher, Mr. Andrew, was very supportive. David has a gift, he told us. We need to help him develop his talents. Slowly but surely, David began to heal. He started to smile more, and his nightmares became less frequent. It has been a long road, but we are determined to walk it together. One evening, as David was sitting quietly by the window, I asked him to draw something for me. He hesitated, but eventually picked up his pencil and paper. Slowly, he began to sketch. It was a picture of our family holding hands in front of our house. Tears welled up in my eyes. "This is beautiful, David," I said, hugging him tightly. "We will get through this together." Our community rallied around us. Neighbors, friends, even strangers offered their support. One day, Sister Grace from our church visited us. "I heard about what happened," she said gently. "I just want you to know that you're not alone. We're here for you." Her words brought tears to my eyes. "Thank you, Sister Grace. Your kindness means a lot." She gave me a hug and handed me a small book. "This is for David. It's a story about a boy who went through something similar and found his way to happiness again. Maybe it will help him." David read the book that night. As he turned the last page, he looked up at me with a glimmer of hope in his eyes. "Mama, I think I can be happy again," he said quietly. I hugged him tightly. "You will be happy again, my son. We will make sure of it." I have been trying to find out more about abuse of male children. I was surprised to learn that many, probably hundreds of thousands of men had dealt with this issue as children. Many victims never talk about it because society doesn't take it seriously. Some people believe that a boy or man can't be abused, and if he is, it's his fault. David's struggles made me realize I was wrong. Boys can be abused too, and they need our care just like girls. Some victims only report this issue many years later when they are adults. This is because when they tried to tell people about it, they were met with unhelpful responses, which shut down the possibility of them talking about it again in the future. They should feel safe to speak up, know they're not alone, and that their pain matters. There are also some victims who harbor resentment towards their parents from the time of their abuse, because they felt unseen, unloved, and emotionally abandoned. This ordeal has left me with so many questions. How could a trusted figure inflict such pain on a child? How do we protect our children in a world where such evil exists? And most importantly, how do we help David heal from this trauma? As we navigate this painful journey, I am left with a sense of uncertainty. What does the future hold for David? How do we move forward from here? I reach out to you, fellow parents, for advice and guidance. How can we address this issue and help our son heal completely? Please pay attention to your children's well-being, whether they are boys or girls. Do not dismiss the signs. Abuse of male children is a serious problem. We must be vigilant, protect our children, and strive to create a world where such horrors do not exist. I won't ever underestimate my son's or any boy's vulnerability again. They deserve our attention, watchfulness, and strong support. Thank you for listening. Together, we can make a difference.
Research shows that 10 to 15% of boys were sexually abused as kids. This happened when they were about 9 to 11 years old. These men didn't speak up about the abuse until over 30 years later. Waiting so long to talk about abuse can harm mental health. Please pay attention to your children's well-being, whether they are boys or girls.